let's get a divorce. He held his coffee, not even looking at me. Okay. I put down my phone. He paused. What did you say? I said okay. He frowned. Did you think I was joking? No, I picked up my bag. When are we going to the Civil Affairs Bureau? Rachel. He slammed his fist on the table. Are you crazy? Where can you go after a divorce? You only earn $3,000 a month, can you support yourself? I looked at him. $3,000? He thought I earned $3,000 a month, and had been doing so for 3 years. You're right, I smiled. So let's get it done tomorrow. His face changed. His name is Paul, my husband. To be precise, my ex-husband. We got married 3 years ago. He earned $5,000 a month, and I had just started working. Don't go to work yet, he said. We'll talk about it when the baby is older. I was 7 months pregnant, standing in the kitchen of our rented apartment, looking at his serious expression. I'll support you, he said, patting his chest. I'd only been with the company for 6 months then, earning $8,000 a month. I thought about it and agreed. But I didn't actually quit. I made up an excuse, saying the company had a project that couldn't do without me, and we'd switched to remote work. He believed me. From then on, I sent 3,000 yuan home every month, and he assumed that was all my income. What's the use of you, a woman, earning that little bit of money, he said, scrolling through his phone. Don't you still have to rely on a man? I was washing dishes in the kitchen, and I didn't say anything. My daughter, Paige, was sleeping softly in her crib in the living room. I looked at the bubbles in the sink and thought about the number in my bank account, 1.5 million. For the past 3 years I'd been getting promoted. From a regular product manager to a senior product manager, and then to product director. I currently earn 80,000 yuan a month, or 960,000 yuan a year. But Paul doesn't know that. He thinks I earn 3,000 yuan a month, stay at home taking care of the kids, and occasionally take on remote work. Can't you dress up a little better? Paul suddenly said. I turned around. What? I told you don't know how to dress. He didn't even look up. Look at you, you always go out without makeup, you have no femininity at all. I dried my hands. Don't you think about how hard I work outside, and then I have to come home and see your face? Do you know how hard it is for me? I stood in the kitchen doorway, watching him. He was scrolling through short videos. The screen showed a girl with impeccable makeup. She knows how to dress, he laughed. That's what a woman is. I didn't say anything. Because I knew it would be pointless. I turned and went back into the kitchen to continue washing the dishes. The sound of rushing water drowned out the laughter in the living room. That night, lying in bed, I remembered what he had said before our wedding. I will be good to you for the rest of my life. I will protect you. You are the person I love most. Looking back now, it seems rather ridiculous. I closed my eyes and heard him playing games in the living room. My phone vibrated. It was a message from work saying I'd be in charge of a project next month, with a bonus of 200,000. I glanced at it and turned off my phone. Paige rolled over, and I gently patted her. She's 2 years old and looks like me. Paul once said, a daughter is useless, give me a son. I didn't argue then. But from then on, I started saving money seriously. I knew this marriage wouldn't last. I discovered his infidelity 2 months ago. That day, I came home from get off work, and his phone was on the coffee table. The screen lit up briefly. It was a WeChat message. Honey, see you tomorrow, followed by a heart emoji. I froze for a few seconds. He picked up his phone. It wasn't password protected. There were many chat logs, starting 3 months ago. Baby, I miss you. I'm wearing a black dress today. Is it your style? Let's have dinner together after get off work, and photos. A young girl, with exquisite makeup, smiling at the camera. I sat on the sofa, scrolling up the records one by one. I saw a transfer record. 20,000. The note read, "Happy birthday, darling." That was last month. I remember that day, he said the company was short of funds and would be paying salaries late. "Don't count on me," he said at the time. "I don't have any money this month either." Paige had a fever, so I took her to the hospital, which cost $3,000. I paid for it all myself. I looked at my phone screen and suddenly laughed. The door opened, and Paul came back. "What are you doing?" He saw me holding his phone, and his expression changed. "It's nothing." I handed him my phone. "Check the time." He took it and breathed a sigh of relief. "I'll go make dinner." I stood up. "Wait." He called after me. "I'm working overtime tomorrow, so I won't be home for dinner." "Okay." I went into the kitchen and opened the refrigerator. Inside were groceries I'd bought yesterday and a carton of milk. I took out the milk and heated up a cup for Paige. She sat in her high chair, swinging her little legs, and asked me, "Mommy, is Daddy coming home today?" "Yes." "Will Daddy play with me?" I paused for a moment. "Yes." But Paul didn't. After finishing his meal, he curled up on the sofa and played video games. Paige called him from the side, and he waved his hand, "Go find your mom." Paige walked away disappointed. I took her to her room and told her a story. She fell asleep quickly, her little hand still clutching my clothes. Looking at her, I suddenly remembered a saying, "Children are innocent." Yes, she was innocent. But I wasn't. I went back to the living room. Paul was still playing video games. "I have a question for you," I said, sitting down. "What?" he asked without looking up. "Do you have someone you like?" His hand trembled, and his character in the game died. "What did you say?" I said, "Do you have someone you like?" "Are you crazy?" He threw down his phone. "I'm working myself to the bone outside every day, and you do nothing at home, yet you suspect me?" "I was just asking." "No." He stood up. "Don't be so paranoid." I looked at him and didn't say anything. He stormed back to the bedroom and slammed the door shut. I sat on the sofa in the living room, looking at my phone on the coffee table. The screen lit up again. "Honey, today was so much fun," I said, taking out my own phone and snapping a picture. Then I deleted it. I don't need evidence. Because I don't intend to get entangled with him. I just want to confirm one thing, this marriage is over. The next day, I called the company to ask for a day off. "Something came up at home," I said. My boss readily agreed, "No problem, you've been working hard lately, take a few days off." I hung up the phone and looked at Paige. She was playing with building blocks, her little hands clumsily stacking them. "Paige." "If Mommy and Daddy were separated, who would you live with?" She tilted her head and thought for a moment. "Mommy." "Why?" "Because Daddy doesn't play with me." I smiled and patted her head. "Mom will always be with you." That afternoon, I went to the law firm. Chavi, introduced by a friend, was in his 40s and dressed in a sharp suit. "Madam, please have a seat." I sat down and briefly explained the situation. "He cheated on me, and I want a divorce." "Do you have any evidence?" "Yes." I took out my phone and showed him photos of the chat history. He glanced at them and nodded, "This counts as evidence." "Anything else?" "Transfer records." I pulled out a few more screenshots. "Very good." He closed his notebook. "So, what are your thoughts on the division of property?" I thought for a moment. "I want to leave with nothing." He was stunned. "What?" I said, "I can leave with nothing." "Madam, are you sure?" he asked, somewhat puzzled. "According to the law, you have the right to fight for at least half of the marital property, and custody of the children." "I know," I interrupted him, "but I don't want to get entangled with him. But, I have my own plans." He looked at me for a moment, then finally nodded. "All right, then we'll do it your way." I stood up. "Thank you." However, ma'am, he called after me, you should be prepared if the other party demands a share of the property. He won't, I said. Because he thought I had no money. It was already evening when I got home. Paul wasn't back yet. Paige was watching cartoons alone in the living room. Mom, she called out, running over as soon as she saw me. What's wrong? Dad's not home yet, and I'm hungry. Mom will make you some food. I went into the kitchen and opened the refrigerator. There wasn't much food left. I decided to go to the supermarket tomorrow to buy some. While I was cooking, my phone rang. It was Paul. Hello? I won't be home for dinner tonight. His voice sounded a little impatient. I have a business dinner at work. Okay. And mind your own business. I didn't say anything. He hung up. I put down my phone and continued chopping vegetables. The knife fell on the cutting board, rhythmically, one stroke at a time. Paige peeked in from the doorway. Mom, what are you doing? Making your favorite sweet and sour pork ribs. Yay! She clapped her hands happily. During dinner, Paige asked, Where's Daddy? Daddy had something to do, he won't be home for dinner. Oh. She was a little disappointed, but quickly resumed eating her ribs happily. Watching her, I suddenly felt a sense of peace. For the past 3 years, I've been enduring it all. Enduring his indifference, his disdain, his manipulation. But now, I don't want to endure it anymore. That night, after Paige fell asleep, I turned on my computer. There was a new email in my inbox, from the company. Congratulations on your promotion to Vice President of Product. Your monthly salary has been adjusted to $120,000. I looked at the screen and smiled. $120,000 per month. $1.44 million per year. And Paul still thought I earned $3,000 per month. I turned off the computer and lay down on the bed. The streetlights outside were on, their light streaming through the curtains. I closed my eyes and thought about what I needed to do tomorrow. First, file for divorce. Second, complete the paperwork. Third, start a new life. It's simple. Let's get a divorce. That's what I said yesterday. Paul thought I was joking, but this morning, when I put the divorce papers in front of him, his face completely changed. Are you serious? Yes. I sat on the sofa, very relaxed. Why? He picked up the agreement and flipped through it page by page. What have I done to wrong you? I didn't speak. Say something. He slammed his hand on the table. Paige was frightened and started crying in the bedroom. I stood up, went into the bedroom, and picked her up. It's okay, Mom's here. She leaned on my shoulder, her sobs gradually subsiding. I patted her back, listening to the sounds of Paul smashing things in the living room. Are you crazy? He stormed into the bedroom. You think you can just get a divorce like that? Paul, I said, looking at him, don't argue in front of the kids. So what if I argued? Paige cried again. I put her on the bed, turned and walked out of the bedroom, closing the door behind me. What do you want? I asked. I don't agree to a divorce. Why? Because, he paused, because we have children. The children will stay with me. Why? Because you've never cared about her. I looked at him. Do you even remember when her birthday is? He was stunned. You don't, I said. You don't know what her favorite food is, what she's most afraid of, or whether she has nightmares. That's because I'm busy with work. Then let's get a divorce, I said. The child will stay with me, and you'll pay $2,000 a month in child support. $2,000? He laughed. Do you think I'm an ATM? Then $1,000. Fine, don't do it. I turned and walked toward the door. I'm going to find a lawyer. Wait, he called after me. I turned around. Rachel, are you crazy? He walked over, staring at me. Where can you go after a divorce? You only earn $3,000 a month, with a child, can you support yourself? I looked at him. Can I support myself? Of course I can. My monthly salary is 80,000, and my annual salary is 960,000. But I didn't say that. You're right, I nodded, that's why I want a divorce. What do you mean? I can't support myself, so I can't be a burden to you. I smiled, you're free, and I'm free too. His expression shifted several times, finally settling into a cold laugh. Fine, divorce me if you want. He picked up his coat. But don't regret it. The door slammed shut. I stood in the living room, listening to Paige crying in the bedroom. I went in and picked her up. It's all right, Mom's here. She sobbed, her little hands clutching my clothes tightly. I held her, pacing back and forth in the room, softly humming a song. The sky outside the window began to brighten. A new day, a new beginning. Paul agreed to the divorce. He signed the agreement readily. The house is yours, you pay the mortgage, he said. I don't want any property, you decide what to do. Okay. Child support, 1,000. Okay. He looked at me, his eyes filled with complex emotions. Are you really sure? Okay. All right then. He stood up. Go to the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow. I nodded. He walked to the door, then suddenly turned back. Rachel, you'll regret this. I didn't say anything. The door closed. I sat on the sofa, looking at the agreement on the table. The house, the mortgage, the child, and 1,000 yuan in child support. It's all good. Anyway, my company pays the mortgage for me. 20,000 yuan a month, I haven't spent any of my own money. But he thinks that with the mortgage payments and raising a child every month, I can't possibly survive. I smiled, took out my phone, and sent Chavi a message. I'm going to the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow, could you please help me with the witnessing? He replied quickly, okay, what time? 10 o'clock in the morning. No problem. I put my phone away and went to the kitchen to cook. Paige was playing with building blocks in the living room, humming an unknown song. Paige. How about Mommy takes you to the amusement park tomorrow? Her eyes lit up, okay. Then be good and don't cry. Okay. I smiled and continued chopping vegetables. The phone rang, it was her best friend, Willow. Hello, Rachel? It's me. I heard you're getting a divorce? Yeah, I'm going to finalize it tomorrow. You. She paused, are you really sure? Yes. That's good. She breathed a sigh of relief. I thought you'd be reluctant. What are you reluctant to part with? I'm reluctant to part with him. I laughed, what's there to be reluctant about? True, she said, that jerk, he's not worth it. By the way, how have you been lately? It's all right, just a bit busy at work. She sighed. But I'm actually quite happy to hear you're getting a divorce. Why? Because you've finally come to your senses. She said, you know, these past 3 years, watching you suffer has really broken my heart. I was silent for a moment. Willow, thank you. Don't mention it, we're sisters. She smiled. By the way, what are you planning to do after the divorce? Continue working, continue living. That's good. I hung up the phone and continued cooking. That evening, Paige ate happily. Mommy, this is delicious. Then eat more. She nodded, her little mouth stuffed full. Looking at her, I suddenly felt a deep peace. For the past 3 years, I've been waiting. Waiting for an opportunity to end this marriage. Now the opportunity has arrived. And he initiated the divorce. That's for the best. The sunlight was blinding at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau. Paul stood to the side, engrossed in his phone. Let's go, I said. Wait, he said without looking up, my friend hasn't replied to my message yet. I glanced at him but didn't say anything. Chavi came over, ma'am, are you ready? Yes. Then let's go in. Paul then put away his phone and followed us inside. The staff were very professional. They asked a few questions and had us sign some forms. What about the property division? It's a mutually agreed upon divorce. Chavi handed over the agreement. The staff member glanced at it and nodded. Okay, please have both parties confirm. Paul glanced at it and readily signed. Is that all right? Please wait a moment, there are still some procedures to complete, the staff member said. Paul sat impatiently next to me, continuing to play on his phone. I sat opposite him, looking out the window. The sky was blue, and the clouds were white. By the way, ma'am, Chavi suddenly said, regarding your asset declaration, we need you to provide a certificate of income. I was taken aback. What? It's procedure, both parties need to provide certificates of income to confirm whether the division of assets is reasonable. Oh. I nodded. I understand. Did you bring it with you now? Yes. I took a file folder out of my bag. These are my pay stubs and tax statements. Chavi took it, opened it, and glanced at it. Then he looked up at me, a hint of surprise in his eyes. Madam, your monthly salary is 80,000, I said. Instantly, the entire hall fell silent. Paul's phone dropped to the floor. He looked up at me, his expression shifting from confusion to shock, and finally to disbelief. What did you say? I said, my monthly salary is 80,000. I looked at him. My annual salary is 960,000. He opened his mouth, but couldn't speak. How could that be? His voice trembled. You didn't earn 3,000 a month? When did I ever say I earned 3,000 a month? I laughed. You just thought so. He was stunned. The staff member seemed a little embarrassed and coughed lightly. Sir, are you sure you want to follow this agreement? Paul didn't speak, just stared intently at me. Rachel. What? I looked at him, is there a problem? Why didn't you say so earlier? You didn't ask, I stood up. Besides, didn't you say my meager earnings were useless? His face turned ashen. And now? I laughed. My monthly salary is enough for you to work for a year. The staff member handed me 2 red booklets. These are your divorce certificates. Please keep them safe. I took it, glanced at it, and put it in my bag. Thank you. As I turned to leave, I heard Paul's voice behind me. Rachel. Wait. I didn't turn around. Rachel. Let's talk. I walked out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, the sunlight warm on my skin. Paige was waiting for me in the car. Seeing me come out, she waved happily. Mommy. I went over, opened the car door, and picked her up. Come on, Mommy will take you to the amusement park. Yay. Paul chased after me. Rachel. Wait a minute. Without looking back, I got into the car. Let's go, I said to the driver. The car started moving, and Paul stood there, his expression unreadable. I looked in the rearview mirror, his figure grew smaller and smaller until he disappeared from sight. I turned to look at Paige. Are you happy? Yes. That's good. I leaned back in my seat and closed my eyes. Finally, it was over. The first week after the divorce, I received a call from Paul. Hello? Rachel, I want to see you. What's wrong? He paused, I want to talk to you. There's nothing to talk about. Rachel, please, he pleaded, just one meeting, okay? I was silent for a few seconds. Okay, tomorrow at 3 in the afternoon, same place. Okay, thanks. Hanging up the phone, I looked out the window. The same place, the coffee shop where we had our first date. Back then, he was a poor guy, and he had to consider the price even when buying me coffee. I smiled and shook my head. The next afternoon, I arrived at the cafe on time. Paul was already there, sitting in the corner, looking much more haggard. Rachel, he stood up, you're here. Yes, I sat down, what's up? He looked at me, his eyes filled with complex emotions. I want to apologize to you. Apologize? Yes. He lowered his head. These past 3 years, I've wronged you. I shouldn't have cheated on you, shouldn't have looked down on you, shouldn't have said those things. I didn't speak, I just looked at him. I know I was wrong. He looked up. Can we start over? I smiled. Start over? Yes. Hope flickered in his eyes. I'll change, I swear. Paul, I looked at him, why do you think I should start over with you? Because, he paused, because we were once in love, and we have a child, then why did you cheat on me? I interrupted him. He couldn't speak. Why did you complain about my figure when I was pregnant? Why wouldn't you even bring me a bowl of soup when I was in postpartum confinement? Why did you say you had no money when Paige was sick, but then transfer $20,000 to your mistress? With each sentence, his face paled further. Rachel. You regret it now because you found out I have money, right? I laughed. If I really only earned $3,000 a month, would you talk to me like this? He opened his mouth, but ultimately said nothing. I stood up. Thank you for making me realize that the subservience in a marriage is self-inflicted. As I turned to leave, he suddenly knelt down. Rachel. Please. Give me a chance. I stopped and turned back to look at him. He was kneeling on the ground, his eyes red and swollen, looking very pitiful. But I didn't soften my heart. I remember those nights when I was alone with Paige, she had a fever and was crying, and I held her anxiously in the hospital corridor. I remember those moments when I cooked dinner and waited for him to come home, but he texted to say he wouldn't be back for dinner. I remembered those words, he said I was useless, that I couldn't make money, that I didn't know how to dress. Paul, I looked at him, you know what? The way you knelt down didn't make my heart ache at all. He was stunned. Because 3 years ago, I knelt before your mother for 50,000 yuan. I laughed. Back then, my father was hospitalized, and your mother said, everyone has their own parents to care for. Now that it's your turn to kneel, I want to say something too. Everyone lives their own life. I turned and walked out of the coffee shop. I heard him crying behind me, but I didn't turn around. The sunlight was blinding, so I put on my sunglasses and walked to my car parked by the roadside. The driver opened the door, and I got in. Back to the company. The car started moving, and I looked out the window at the street scene. The city was still the same city, but I was no longer the person I was 3 years ago. Back at the office, my boss called me in for a talk. Rachel, you did a great job on this project, he said with a smile. The company has decided to give you a new position. What position? Vice President of Product, he said. Monthly salary of 120,000, annual salary of 1.44 million. I was taken aback. So, are you interested? Of course. I smiled. Thank you, boss. You deserve it. He patted my shoulder. Keep up the good work, the company has high hopes for you. Stepping out of the office, I stood in the hallway, looking at the city through the floor-to-ceiling windows. A monthly salary of 120,000. I remembered Paul kneeling on the ground, and suddenly felt a pang of irony. He thought I earned only 3,000 a month and couldn't live without him. But he didn't know that I now earn 120,000 a month, and 1.44 million a year. I'm far better off than him. My phone rang, it was Willow. Hey, Rachel, I heard you got a promotion? Yeah, my boss just notified me. Wow, congratulations, she said happily. Let's celebrate together tonight? Sure. By the way, how's Paul doing? Nothing much, I said. He wanted to get back together, but I rejected him. Serves him right, she laughed. A man like that deserves to regret it for the rest of his life. I laughed too. That evening, Willow and I were having dinner at a restaurant. You know what? I saw Paul today, she suddenly said. Where? Downstairs at the company, she said. He stood there for a long time, like he was waiting for you. And then? Then I went over and asked him what he wanted, and he said he wanted to see you. She laughed. I told him you wouldn't see him, to give up on him. What did he say? He didn't say anything, just left. She took a sip of her drink. He looked pretty pathetic. I didn't say anything, just kept eating. Rachel, you won't go through with it, will you? She looked at me. No, I shook my head. I just think it's kind of ridiculous. How so? He thought I couldn't live without him, but now it's the other way around. I laughed. Isn't that karma? Of course. She raised her glass. Come on, cheers to your new life. Cheers. The glasses clinked together, making a crisp sound. I got home at 10 p.m. Paige was already asleep, and the nanny was watching TV in the living room. Madam, you're back. Yes, thank you for your hard work. It's nothing, Paige is very well behaved. The nanny packed her things and left, and I went into Paige's room. She was sleeping soundly, her little hand still clutching her teddy bear. I sat on the edge of the bed, watching her. Paige, Mommy will give you the best life, I whispered. I promise. She turned over, mumbled something, and fell asleep again. I stood up, walked out of the room, and closed the door. Standing on the balcony, I looked at the lights in the distance. This city, finally, belonged to me. Paul didn't give up. He kept calling me, texting me, and even waiting for me downstairs at my office. Rachel, please, give me another chance. I really know I was wrong. Can we start over? I didn't reply. Until one day, he stopped me at the company entrance. Rachel. I stopped and looked at him. He had lost a lot of weight, was unshaven, and looked disheveled. What do you want? I frowned. I want to talk to you, he said, just for a moment, please. I checked my watch, 10 minutes. Okay. We sat on a bench downstairs at the company. He looked at me, hesitant to speak. Go ahead, I said. Rachel, I know I've wronged you. He lowered his head, but I really want to change. I swear, I'll treat you well from now on, and I'll treat Paige well. And then? I interrupted him. What? And then? I looked at him. You treat me well, you treat Paige well, and then? He froze. Do you think I'll forgive what you did over the past 3 years just because of a few words from you? When you cheated on me, did you ever think about me? I laughed. When you transferred 20,000 yuan to your mistress, did you ever think about how I wouldn't be able to afford it if Paige got sick? When you said I didn't know how to dress up, did you ever think about how tiring it was for me to raise the child alone? His face turned deathly pale. I didn't. You did. I stood up. You had many opportunities to be good to me, but you didn't. Now you regret it because you found out I'm richer than you, right? He fell silent. Paul, we can't go back. I looked at him. Not because you cheated on me, but because you never truly loved me. You just needed someone to cook for you, take care of the kids, and listen to you. And I wasn't that person. I turned to leave, and he called after me. Rachel. I didn't turn around. Rachel. You'll regret this. I stopped and looked back at him. My only regret is not leaving you sooner. Then, I walked away without looking back. A month later, I heard that Paul and his mistress had broken up. It was the mistress who brought it up, Willow said, because she found out Paul had no money. Oh, I nodded, expressionless. I heard Paul's in a bad situation right now. He got fired and is renting an apartment in an old neighborhood, she said gloatingly. Serves him right. Yeah. Why aren't you reacting at all? She asked, looking at me. Because it has nothing to do with me. I took a sip of coffee. Whether he's doing well or not has nothing to do with me. She laughed, that's true. You're doing so well now, who cares about him? Indeed, I'm doing very well now. I earn $120,000 a month, my work is going smoothly, and Paige is in good health. Last week, I bought a $2 million house with a river view and excellent natural light. After the renovations were completed, Paige and I moved in. Mommy, it's so big here. Paige ran around happily in her new home. Do you like it? Yes. I smiled and patted her head. Then we'll live here from now on. Okay. That evening, I stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, gazing at the lights across the river. Paige was asleep on the sofa, her little hand still clutching the remote control. I went over, carried her back to her room, and tucked her in. Mommy loves you, I whispered. Back in the living room, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I hesitated for a moment, then didn't answer. The phone rang again, it was the same number. I glanced at it, then finally pressed the mute button. No matter who it was, I didn't want to answer. Because right now, all I wanted was to live my life properly. A year later, I stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window of my new home, a coffee in my hand, gazing at the river view outside. Sunlight shimmered on the river, and several cruise ships slowly sailed by. Paige played with her toys in the living room, humming a nursery rhyme she had learned in kindergarten. Mommy, look at the castle I built. She exclaimed, holding up her blocks. It's so beautiful, I said with a smile. Shall we go to the park later? Okay. That year, I got promoted from Vice President of Product to VP of Product, and my monthly salary increased to $150,000. I bought a new car, moved to a new house, and Paige started attending a very good kindergarten. Life was finally going the way I wanted. By the way, Rachel, Willow called, do you know how Paul is doing? No, I said, and I don't want to know. I'll tell you, she laughed, he's renting in an old neighborhood now, and he's having trouble at work. I heard he changes jobs all the time. And also, he wanted to see Paige, but you didn't agree, right? Yes, I said. He's not worthy to see her. That's right, she agreed. The further away you are from a man like that, the better. I didn't say anything more, just looked out the window. Paul, the man who once made me feel inferior, is now completely irrelevant to me. Whether he's doing well or not is unimportant. What matters is that I'm doing well. After hanging up the phone, I took Paige to the park. The sun was shining brightly, and she ran around on the grass, her laughter ringing out. I sat on a bench, watching her, feeling very peaceful. Mommy, she ran over, I want ice cream. Okay, Mommy will buy you some. We walked to the ice cream truck, and I bought her one. Thank you, Mom, she said happily, licking it. I looked at her and smiled. This is the life I want, simple, happy, and free. It was already evening when I got home. I made dinner and ate with Paige. Mom, I had such a great day, she said. That's good. After dinner, she went to take a shower, and I tidied the table. My phone rang. It was an unknown number. I glanced at it, hesitated for a few seconds, and didn't answer. The phone rang again, it was the same number. I turned off my phone and went to the balcony. Night fell, and the lights across the river came on, it was beautiful. I don't know who made that call. Maybe it was Paul, maybe it was someone else. But I don't want to know. Because right now, I don't need anyone. I have Paige, I have a job, I have my own life. That's enough. I turned and went back to the living room. Paige had just come out of the shower, her hair still wet. Mommy, tell me a story. Okay. I took her back to her room and told her a bedtime story. She fell asleep quickly, her little hand still clutching the hem of my clothes. I looked at her and gently kissed her forehead. Good night, baby. Stepping out of the room, I stood in the hallway, looking at our new home. The living room, the bedroom, the study, every corner was decorated by my own hand. This is our home, Paige's and my home. Outside the window, the lights on the river twinkled. I walked to the French windows and looked at the distant night view. It turns out the best revenge is to live better than him. I smiled, turned, and went back to my bedroom. A new day was about to begin.